Hello everybody, and welcome to the F1 Behind the Wheel podcast with Andrej and Kailash.
Hello. Today,
Hello, Kailash.
hey,
So, what are your
today,
thoughts about the Qatar GP?
yeah, it was very interesting to see because the race in itself wasn't actually that good. There were lots of overtakes, but the race in its entirety were not it wasn't that good. Um, Mainly because of the fact of the track limits problem. The FIA is not in the right place. It's focusing on the wrong things, I believe.
Mhm.
And yeah, Andre, I'm gonna ask you, what do you think about those track limits during the whole weekend? What happened?
Um, for me, I mean, there are some advantages and disadvantages, but it's basically really similar to the Austrian GP, where
Yes.
basically, also the track limits are the problem. But on one hand, it's obvious that the driver should stay on the track, and if you cross the lines, it's the track limits. But on the other hand, it's very difficult, because when you would be driving as the driver in the car,
Yeah,
it's not easy to to see the lines and everything. And also when you just cross it by some centimeters, you got to do again the slow in lap, and then you got to prepare the lap, and that takes some time. So that's
exactly.
obviously a disadvantage.
Exactly. And we saw drivers complain in the medical center after the race
Yeah,
because the conditions were so tough. It was so hot outside and inside the car that drivers started blacking out. They started feeling sick. Like Ocon on lap 15 just vomited in his helmet. That's not a good thing. And
I saw.
Sargent had to retire because he wasn't feeling well and he couldn't continue. Um, so I believe the FIA is focusing on the wrong things. It's focusing more on like the details, like track limits, or making the races more entertaining for new fans, while they should be focusing more on the actual sport and how it was before, I guess, like 2021, for example. I believe 2021 was the last good year of racing we had in Formula One, last good season. And yeah, as we saw
Yeah, well,
also at the start of the race, two Mercedes drivers collided, Hamilton and Russell. Who do you think
yeah.
was at fault?
Well, from my perspective, I think it was Lewis's fault
Hmm.
because from already the start they almost had a contact before the turn,
Yep,
and I was actually in shock that they didn't touch.
yep.
And yeah, then it just happened. So I think it was Lewis's fault. Obviously, he was faster, but you gotta be careful, and especially it's not a sprint, but it's a marathon. So even if you will lose some positions up, you will eventually could get them back up in the race.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was Lewis Hamilton's fault too. He had space on the outside, and he just turned into Russell and took both of the drivers out. Um,
Yeah.
I think every Formula One fan got 2016 flashbacks from Spain.
Yeah.
After yeah, Hamilton and Rosberg moment right there. And for the first time since Nigel Mansell, we see a drivers' championship be awarded on Saturday, and it went to Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
He's a three-time world champion. He got it on Saturday in the sprint race, sorry. Um, First time since Nigel Mansell. What do you think about Verstappen
Yeah.
claiming his third title?
By the way, I don't know if it was Mansell. I don't know if it was on Hill, by the way,
You think it
but
was
that
Hill?
doesn't matter really. I thought it was Hill, but maybe you are right. But
Quick fact check.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna keep talking for
Yeah,
now.
sure.
Well, from my perspective, yeah, I mean, I thought, he would save the title for Sunday, but on the other hand, Verstappen would have to do something dramatic, to either just go into the pits and not race, which would be a pity for the team. So
Hmm.
I think it was expected, either on Saturday or Sunday, so it
Yeah,
didn't really matter.
yeah, exactly.
But as they didn't have really any big celebrations on Saturday, which is obvious. And yeah,
Yeah, it was a pretty easy um race and season for Verstappen.
yeah.
Um, yep. Oh, it was, I think, PK. Must have been PK then. I thought it was Mansell, but I think
Okay.
it's PK now. The last who won a championship on Saturday for the last time before Max Verstappen. But yeah, um, Verstappen had two easy seasons, 2022 and 2023. 2022, I think the season in general was better than 2023, but people can argue other, differently. Um, yeah, what do you think? Which season was better, 2022 or
Uh,
2023?
I mean, if we look from the perspective, in overall, I think 2022 was definitely a better season because, there were more wins from other teams, and also the teams that didn't score a lot of points in 2021 eventually scored some good points in the next
Yeah,
season. And this year, I don't know, it hasn't been that entertaining, especially, when Red Bull dominated almost every race until Singapore.
yeah,
So
actually every
yeah,
race, yeah,
in 2022, when you look almost every time, Red Bull or Ferrari had an opportunity to win, and sometimes also Mercedes. So it was entertaining, as it wasn't
yeah.
more entertaining than 2023, for
We
sure.
could predict other drivers winning too in 2022. For example, Leclerc. Leclerc was a big contestant for wins, although he only got, I believe, three wins, four maybe. Yeah, maybe four in 2022. Um, but still, Ferrari won those four times. Bahrain, no, three times. Yeah, Bahrain, Australia, and Austria, I think. But
Yeah, Bahrain,
yeah,
Australia, Austria, and then Sainz in Silverstone
exactly. Since it's
for
Silverstone.
Ferrari.
But this season has been dominated by Red Bull, actually since Abu Dhabi
Yeah,
2022, the last race of 2022, all the way up to Singapore was Sainz who won in Singapore, which broke
yeah.
Verstappen and Red Bull's record, 10 wins in a row. Um, but yeah, now it's back to Red Bull dominating again, probably until the end of the season, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. And Kailash, what do you think of the fastest pit stop by the McLaren boys?
That was very impressive. Finally, some other team could get another record, 1.8 seconds, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That is very impressive considering that the tires are heavier than previous years. Uh,
Also bigger.
they're bigger, and the wheel guns are manual. Before they used to go automatically to green, but now they have to actually click the wheel gun to make it go
Yeah.
green and indicate that their tire is on the car. Um, that is very 1.8 seconds. Thinking that just a few years ago we used to have like even the 2010s, for example, we used to have 6, 7, 8, 10-second stops that were normal, but now
Yep.
1.8. Wow.
And Kailash, what do you think about Aston Martin and their performance?
Aston Martin has sort of fallen off. Not gonna lie, these the team started well at the beginning. In Bahrain, Jeddah, Australia, they were fighting for podiums and maybe a win. I think they were a little bit far from the win at the beginning, but they were definitely fighting for podiums. And then after
Yeah,
Canada, also last year in 2022, after Canada, they sort of, I don't know if they stopped developing or they just fell off a cliff and they weren't performing as well. And
yeah,
Alonso, I think, is doing most of the work at Aston Martin, bringing the team as high as possible in the constructors' standings. And yeah, I'm gonna
yeah.
ask you, what do you think about Stroll?
Yeah, well, if you said, as you said, Fernando is basically helping only Aston Martin and Stroll isn't doing anything. Well, almost anything. I think it's the same for Williams, really.
Yeah,
So, yeah, Sargent and Stroll are just not performing. And I mean, on the other hand, to Sargent, I think Stroll is just too aggressive with his team, and he has to, I think, rethink that he's in Aston Martin and not in Stroll Racing or something, I would call his team.
yes,
So, it hurts when you just don't, get points and get knocked out in Q1. I understand that, but you got to behave yourself, and yeah, it's the way it is.
exactly. And in Qatar, Sargent did not perform very well. One, because he was sick in
Yeah,
the race, which is understandable. Um, but in the sprint shootout, he just spun by himself. And he also in Japan crashed in qualifying. Yeah, he's not
yeah,
performing in the season in
exactly.
general. We'll see if there's going to be a driver swap in the winter break, or maybe not. If there are no driver swaps or changes this year for next year, it's going to be the first time in Formula One history that no drivers have been swapped. Um,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So I think that's everything for today. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching and thank you for your interview, Kala.
yeah.
See
Thank you.
you soon, everybody.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye.